Hello and welcome to today's webinar, Overview of 2023 Material Change Index, or MCI survey. Today's presentation will be recorded and will be posted on the Hub. In addition, an email will be sent to all registered participants with links to the recording and presentation. There are several joining us today, and to make sure we capture all your questions, we encourage you to type your questions into the question box on the webinar doc. We will have chat open at the beginning of the presentation. Then we will move to the Q&A doc for continued engagement. Now on to Preena. Preena?
Thank you, Rose. Hello, everyone. A very good afternoon from Bangalore, India. Thank you for joining us today. It's really good to see a lot of familiar names and a few new ones. I'm Preena Pandey from the Materials Benchmark team at Textile Exchange, and it's a pleasure to take you through the overview of the Materials Benchmark. This session is dedicated to all current participants and prospect companies who are interested to learn and join the Materials Benchmark in 2023, which is going live on April 18th. We aim to provide a basic overview of everything that you need to know as a new or a returning participant today. We have different sections that we will cover as a team today, and there will be opportunity for you to ask questions, as Rose mentioned, during a dedicated Q&A round towards the end of the session. In the meantime, if you have any burning questions, feel free to use the Q&A box already. And for any burning comments, feel free to use the chat box, which will be open in the first 10 minutes or so. We like to keep our sessions interactive, so we want to start by asking you to type on the chat box how you're feeling today, where are you joining from, and what do you want to get out of this session? My colleagues, who I will introduce in a bit, will be active in the chat box and the Q&A to assist you. I'll start by typing in the chat box, but encourage you to use the chat box and say, where are you joining us from today? How are you feeling? And what do you want to get out of this session today? And then we'll kick it off. Thanks, Haley, for starting there. I have quickly typed something as well. And while you guys are typing, and I'm really waiting to see your chats coming in, I'll quickly introduce you to content of this session in the next slide. This is what we'll cover today. We will begin with an introduction to the Materials Benchmark, then show a glimpse or an overview of the 2022 results that have or are being launched in March. Then we'll move on to the latest and the greatest updates in 2023. What does it mean in terms of the Materials Benchmark journey for participants? Why take part? How to get started? And then we'll get on to a dedicated Q&A session and call to action. In the next slide, while I'm also seeing people type in, thank you so much. Without further ado, I would like to introduce you to my wonderful team. They are here with us today, and you will hear from a few of us soon. I want to also take this opportunity to share that our team has a brand new name, and we are now called the Materials Benchmark team. We are done away with long acronyms, and hopefully this is simpler and straightforward name to remember and call ourselves. This is also aligned with internal naming alignment across the organization. Our Materials Benchmark team is led by our Senior Manager, Haley Warren, who is with us today, and she'll be presenting soon. We also have our colleague, Maria, Chiara, and Jessica join us, and you'll hear from them as well in today's session. In the next slide. Just to begin with what the Materials Benchmark is all about. It is a peer-to-peer comparative tracking of fibers and raw material sourced by companies in the fashion, textile, and apparel industry. It is developed by Textile Exchange to enable companies to track and measure the uptake and impact of fiber raw materials, report on strategic approach for fiber and raw materials against an industry-recognized framework, and support the industry in reaching the Climate Plus targets of 45% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions by 2030. As you can see, the benchmark program is expanding to support more consolidation in the industry, reporting and deepening its role in tracking progress towards goal for climate and nature. It is worthy to note that Materials Benchmark is the largest peer-to-peer comparison initiative in the textile industry. It tracks the apparel, footwear, and home textile sectors' progress towards more sustainable material sourcing, as well as has alignment with different global efforts like the Global Biodiversity Framework, the transition to a circular economy, and more, which we'll touch upon later in this session today. In the next slide, before we go dig deeper into different sections today, it is important to acknowledge the benefits of benchmarking. We are a proud ally of the World Benchmarking Alliance and have adapted their benefits. And here, as stated, benchmark helps clarify what societies expect from industries and companies. They clarify how companies can contribute to sustainability. They promote a race to the top. They help companies track progress and also promote dialogue and are proven an effective engagement tool. And this is exactly what our materials benchmark does. In the next slide, here I will take you through a glimpse of how the benchmark has evolved over the last 8 years. It was piloted with 57 brands and retailers in 2015. It went through a phase of establishment as a program for the industry from 2016 to 2018, with rigorous rounds of development and stakeholder consultation. In 2019, the Material Change Index, or the MCI, was launched. The MCI is a public listing of participating brands and retailers showcasing their overall performance and bandings. In 2020, the Biodiversity Benchmark as a beta version was launched with an increased focus and pivot to climate and nature. The benchmark scope also opened up in this year, where we invited pilot participants for suppliers and manufacturers cohort. Last year in 2022, was a critical one as an extensive stakeholder consultation resulted in wider industry alignment, streamlining, and updates to the survey framework. In 2022 was when the biodiversity benchmark was integrated as a module in the fuller benchmark survey to streamline reporting and reducing duplication for companies. Also in the same year, marked the third and the final year for suppliers and manufacturers pilot. We also became the reporting partner for the Fashion Pact signatories to report on their targets and progress of their 3 pillars: climate, biodiversity, and oceans. And this all happened in 2022. And finally, in 2023, we are soon to launch our revised benchmark survey in April, which is streamlined, industry aligned, and rebranded. The materials benchmark in 2023 has started alignment with Sustainable Apparel Coalition's brand and retailer module, the BRM, starting with an alignment on 20 questions in the materials benchmark survey this year. And we are working on continued and increased alignment through this partnership in the coming years. In 2023 is also the year when suppliers and manufacturers survey is moving out of its pilot phase to an establishment phase, to establish itself in 2023 with increased participation and with full scoring methodology applied to suppliers survey. Internally, we are also aligning with Textile Exchange maturation model acceleration framework. More to come on this later in the year. Materials benchmark is also the place for reporting for challenge signatories in the previous slide, but I did want to mention that it is the reporting tool for Sustainable Cotton Challenge and the Recycled Polyester Challenge. In the next slide. This is a quick one, but to say that the program has grown in participation and scope over the last 8 years. And we are now at 400 plus brands, retailers, suppliers, and manufacturers who see value in benchmarking. We are thrilled to see industries growing trust and confidence in benchmarking, and are here to support your tracking of progress and impacts. That's it from me, but with this, I would like to pass it over to my colleague, Maria, to share an overview of 2022 results coming out soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Prerna, and welcome everyone. So as Prerna mentioned, in 2022, we saw nearly 400 companies coming together to collectively track their efforts. And this means that we continue to be the largest peer-to-peer comparison initiative in the industry. And if we can move to the next slide. So yeah, thank you. So here we can see a snapshot of the benchmarking community that is included in the MCI Insights report that will come out in April. The MCI Insights report uses data from Textile Exchange Material Benchmark to map out progress towards more sustainable sourcing at the raw material level of the fashion and textile supply chain. So here the data shows information on the participants' profile in 2022. So as Brenna mentioned, in 22, 387 brands and retailers, including subsidiaries, completed the MCI survey, along with 37 suppliers and manufacturers. From these companies, 71% were Textile Exchange members and 72 were returning companies. This means that they had completed the survey before in previous years. In 2022, we also had 47 new participants. So for us to understand the impact, we have calculated that 3.9 million employees are working for these companies and that their total estimated turnover is more than $1 trillion. So the majority of participants, around 68%, are large size companies, and this is defined as having 250 employees or more. However, also medium, small, and micro-sized companies participated in the benchmark. More than half of these companies, 60%, have their headquarters in Europe, and 32% is based in North America. Companies located in Oceania, Asia, Latin America, and Africa have also completed the MCI survey in 2022. So 64% of the participants belong to the apparel and footwear subsector, 50% to outdoor and sports, and 14% are multi-sector companies, and 7% are home and hospitality companies. So the inside the reports, along with the confidential scorecards, the material change index, the material impact dashboard, are result products that are designed to take the user through the journey of material change. And I will explain more about the material change index and the material impacts and dashboard later in the webinar, but they will be launched at the end of this week. So now I will pass it over to Haley that will explain more on the 2023 updates. Over to you, Haley.
Thank you, Maria. Yeah, thank you everyone for joining. So I'm here to go through some of the updates that we have for 2023. So on the next slide, we have actually worked for the past 12 months to enhance the material benchmark. As Prina says, we have had many iterations of it, and we always strive to make sure that the program and the benchmark continues to be fit for purpose. So for 2023, some of the key updates, and bear with me, there's quite a lot to cover. So with partnership with our internal teams and our key stakeholders, we have updated our scoring methodology. The scoring methodology was last updated in 2019, and as we've revamped and revisited our framework and our model, it was a good time to make sure that we were fully aligned with the organizational Climate Plus goals. We will keep the current bandings, so level 1, developing, level 2, establishing, level 3, scaling, and level 4, leading. However, the criteria that sits behind that has been modified. And some of those key changes are the removal of the score for absolute uptake volumes, really to ensure that we are aligned on scores with our PFMM, and not all of the questions this year will be scored. We do have the aim to fix this scoring for the next 3 years, because this will allow for trend analysis and year-on-year comparison. The second key update for 2023 is the framework itself. We have streamlined section 1, which is business integration and circular economy. Section 2 has been remodeled. And then we have a whole new updated section 3, which now focuses on climate and nature impact areas. We have had enhanced collaboration, as Prina said, with the SAC, EMF and climate and nature experts to develop all of these modules in the framework. And on the next slide, after I go through these updates, I'll go through the framework in detail. Another key update for 2023 is that the supplier and manufacturer survey is moving out of pilot phase. We carried out a detailed stakeholder consultation with participants and key organizations such as the Process Factory, Lian Fung, Singapore Fashion Council. So we really have tailor-made these questions to make sure that all are relevant this year for suppliers and manufacturers. The supplier survey this year will also have the same scoring methodology as the brands and retailers. And we have added an additional option to report in meters with the automatic conversion of metric tons. So this was a request, and we've managed to integrate this into the survey. As we touched upon, we have done enhanced partnerships. We were very fortunate again this year to work with EMF on the circular economy module, and they have been a really key strategic advisor on these questions, and we have made updates in line with their suggestions. Another key partnership, as Prina mentioned, is the partnership with the SAC. We did first start to align with the SAC last year, and the timing for alignment made sense as they were also updating their BRM. Through the discussions, we did identify that was around 70 companies that actually report into both of the tools. So we worked to align on as many questions as possible, with the understanding that the two surveys do actually have two different scopes. But progress was made, and in 2023, both programs are adopting the same terminology and guidance. So we will have the same terminology of definition of preferred, how to calculate uptake volumes, and where possible, we have matched the questions in terms of scope and ask. Moving forward in 2024, we really are going to see how we can align further and to see if there's any data sharing capabilities. And finally, another key change is the changes that we have made to the reporting cycle. And I'll go over this in a bit more detail when we cover the benchmark journey. But on the next slide, you will see the framework. So this is a new framework for 2023. We still have the three sections. So section 1 is business integration and circular economy. Section 2 is the materials portfolio, and section 3 is impact areas. So if we look at each of the sections in a bit more detail, for business integration, we continue to ask companies about their fiber and raw material strategy and how this is integrated into the business. Just to note that we have really worked hard to streamline these questions. So last year there were around 50 questions, and these have been consolidated to just 23 this year. Also in section 1 is circular economy, and these questions again continue to focus on the transition towards a circular economy and how companies are implementing strategies to decouple economic activity from consumption of finite resources. And again, we've worked hard to reduce the number of questions, and there are around 14 in this section. Another key update is section 2. So we will continue to ask participants provide their uptake data, but we have removed the materials module. So all of the information on your fibers and raw materials will now sit in this section. The aim was really to make sort of the user experience better and to ensure that all of your information on fibers and raw materials was in one place. But again, as with previous years, to complete this section of the survey, we do require you to prepare your uptake data for the materials that you are reporting on. And the final section, this has probably seen the biggest change for 2023. The aim of this section is to capture the participants' progress, targets, and reporting on climate and nature related activities. This is really in line with our Climate Plus goals, and we have developed key questions on impact areas such as climate, biodiversity, freshwater oceans, land use, and soil health. So now if we look into the benchmark journey in more detail, so on the next slide. So just to sort of recap on who can take part, we encourage brands and retailers and suppliers and manufacturers to take part. And as Prina has already mentioned, the benchmark will continue to be the reporting tool for the organizational challenges. And if you are not sure if you are eligible to take part, you feel free to reach out to myself or any member of the benchmark team who can help you. So on the next slide, this is the new benchmark journey. So we have updated the reporting cycle. So we will now launch the benchmark earlier in the year with the aim to provide all results in a shorter window and by the end of the year. So in January and March, we will carry out outreach and onboarding. We still have the aim to grow and support the benchmark community. As Prina mentioned, the new survey will go live on the 18th of April this year. And participants will have around 11 weeks to collect all their data and submit, and submissions will close at the end of June. Over the summer, so July, August, September, the team will work to review all of the survey submissions. And this is a time we may reach back out to you if we have any questions or clarifications on any of your answers. And then in October to December, we really have the strong ambition to launch all of the results. We do appreciate this is a change. So if you do think that this timeline may cause any problems or any issues, please do contact the team. We would really like to work with you on, the best way possible to make sure that you can take part this year. On the next slide, again, in line with the shift in the cycle, we've enhanced some of the support and the guidance to get you started. There are several different resources that you are available to use. And as I mentioned, the whole team is here to support you as much as needed. So some things that are new for this year is the fact sheet. This is sort of a simplified approach of how to get started. It provides high-level actions for you to work on in order to prepare for the benchmark. We have a number of getting started workshops, and I think it's in 2 weeks' time, we will be holding a bit of a practical session to show you how to access the new survey and run you through the questions. These workshops are going to be designed to be as practical as possible, so we welcome anyone to join and ask questions as we go. As with previous years, we've also developed some guides. The updated materials benchmark survey guide will be launched at the end of the month. And again, we've worked hard to simplify some of the asks and be clear on the definitions. So hopefully the updated guide will be useful. The drop-ins, we will continue to run our weekly drop-ins every Thursday. These will start on the March 30th and they will run until submission closes up to the 29th of June. The aim of these is just to provide additional support that you may need whilst you're completing your survey. This year, we are going to do a slightly different format. So the drop-in clinics will be themed. So we will announce what the theme will be ahead of Thursday. We will present some key facts, hints and tips in the first 10 minutes. This will then be followed by a very informal discussion, any questions that participants have. We really want and encourage people to use these as an opportunity to ask questions and to meet fellow benchmarkers. And they are informal, so you're not expected to stay for the full hour, but we do encourage you to join. So on the next slide, I will hand it back to Maria, who will go through why to take part.
Thank you, Haley. Putting back my camera. So if we move to the next slide, so we can understand why companies should take part. And before going there, I'm going to quote Laria Pepe, our catalyst and co-founder at Textile Exchange, who said, "You cannot know where you're going if you don't know where you are." So how can we help you understand where you are? If you participate in the materials benchmark, you will receive a confidential scorecard that shows the impact of your fiber and raw materials choices. You will be able to compare your performance against the largest voluntary peer-to-peer benchmark in the fashion and textile industry. You will be able to use the benchmark to guide improvements in your fiber strategy. You can demonstrate a commitment to transparency and continuous improvement around your materials sourcing strategy. You will be able to meet the reporting requirements that are set by key stakeholders, for example, your investors or your customers. and you will be able to engage with others in the community and learn from the best practices and collaborate to create a material change. So these are just a few of the reasons that why you should take part in the material benchmark. And if we move to the next slide, I will show you what exactly you will be receiving. So you will receive a confidential scorecard. You are able to be part of the Material Change Index and also of the Materials Impact Dashboard. So what confidential scorecards are customized scorecards that provide participants with an analysis of their results, and it also includes an annual comparison against their scores from previous years. Textile Exchange members receive an advanced scorecard as part of their membership, and non-members receive a standard scorecard or a modified standard scorecard. You can already find these confidential scorecards in your 2022 survey from February 16th, sorry. What is the Material Change Index? It is a public listing that celebrates all companies that took part in the benchmark. And it's also delivering transparency by sharing participants' performance banding with the world. So it provides an indicator of progress, and it helps companies identify the strengths and gaps. And it also encourages year-on-year improvement and a race to the top. And Material Impact Dashboard provides an opportunity for interested stakeholders to observe the progress made by the entire group of benchmarking companies across the different impact areas, from preferred materials uptake to climate action. And the Material Impact Dashboard, what it does, it models the outcomes and impacts associated with preferred material sourcing. And it's also a key tool to track industry progress towards Textile Exchange Climate Plus goal of a 45% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions over the next decade. So by summarizing what you will receive after completing the materials benchmark, I will hand it over to Prerna that will explain to us how you can get started.
Perfect. Thanks, Maria. In the next slide. So I'm back, and just to the real question, I guess for a lot of new companies that will be deciding to participate with us, how do companies get started? Before getting into these steps that are in front of your screens, I just wanted to share that the starting point can be exactly where you are right now. If you are a new company considering to start your benchmarking journey, you may or may not have all the data in hand, all the answers with you, or even a dedicated resource person in your team. But trust us, when we say that you're not alone, we have heard this from almost every company that was taking the first step to begin benchmarking. And I'm sure all the returning companies present here will agree with us, won't you? For this reason, and the fact that one size does not fit all, we have built a survey for it to be flexible for you. You can begin with one fiber or one module in the first year, see how it goes, how the benchmark exercise has helped you along the way, and increase your modules and number of fibers, every year as per your experience. And we hear that a lot, that just the simple exercise of going through the questions and the answer options itself provides a sense check and the direction for many companies. So how to begin? To begin, we have stated a few steps here. These are obviously initial steps to help you get started. Start by determining your priority fibers and raw materials, which ones are convention, non-conventions that you use and source in each category. Develop an internal task team. This is what we recommend, just to have like a primary benchmark contact or a two who can help you in collecting that data or the information for the benchmark survey exercise. Check the priority fibers and raw materials that you can report. That is, do you have the uptake volumes from the previous year or not? If you have the questions around accuracy, calculations, and any other concerns, we have developed fiber calculation guides to help you in each step of the way. And if you still have further questions, just reach out to us for support, and we are here and happy to help. Then once you have seen the survey questions that will go live on April 18th, you can select the sections that you feel more comfortable with completing. Obviously, there's no pressure to complete all of them, as we mentioned before. But it's just great to sort of see what the survey asks. And then set internal timelines to be sure that you complete the benchmark in the given time frame. As we mentioned, April 18th to June 30th is about 11 weeks and to complete this survey, and should be more than enough or more than required for companies to complete it. But of course, if you have concerns around this new timeline, as Haley mentioned, or if it's your first year that you're starting, just reach out to us and we can help find the best solution for you. However, so that we keep to the due dates and the deliverables, we encourage participating companies, especially the returning and the experienced ones, to keep the due date in mind. These steps are elaborated a little more in something called our onboarding checklist that I think Haley mentioned before, which shares more details of each of these steps. And this onboarding checklist and the details are available to Textile Exchange members as a benefit of membership. So there's more to come. But with that, I will stop and move on to the next slide, where we'll just wrap it up with call to actions and then open up the floor for questions. So I'd strongly encourage you to start thinking what questions you want us to answer today. And it can be anything. We are happy to support you now or as a follow-up. Before I get to the call to action, is there anything else that my team wants to add in any section of the presentation? Or I can also continue with the call to action and then open up the floor for questions. No? All good?
No, we're good. Yes, thank you, Brenna.
Okay, great. So I know that there must have been quite a lot of information today. We will definitely be sharing the recording and the presentation resources with everybody who has registered. And of course, as a call to action, we want to start by saying, if you're new, please confirm your participation by email. We're happy to share our welcome kit and all the onboarding checklist and things like that we discussed before with you in an organized way. The 2023 registration links to the reporting platform will open soon. So once we have that confirmation email from you, we will obviously get in touch as soon as the registration links go live. So confirm your participation, join our Getting Started workshops in the last week of March. As we reminded before, these sessions are arranged to accommodate different time zones across the world, and we really want to sort of deep dive into what it is required to get started before the survey goes live. So you're welcome, and the link is right there under the support schedule right in the center of your screen. It is also really important, and we encourage participants or interested companies to join our hub community. This is the space for there's a dedicated space for materials benchmark community. This will be your best way to stay most updated with benchmark related announcements, events, and resources, and also is a chance for you to engage with your peer groups. On top of all of this, we have guidance and onboarding support, as we mentioned, and we can't wait for you to avail all the support and make use of the guidance materials that our team has worked on in the last few months. For any further support, if you still feel that there is a need for a one-on-one call or any sort of dedicated help, feel free to reach out to us at benchmark@textileexchange.org. With that, I will say thank you and open up the floor for any question and answers. Just a kind reminder, type in your questions in the Q&A box and one of us will help answer them for you. Thank you.
We have had two questions, and apologies, I typed the answer, so I will read them out so everyone has the answers. So the first question, and I think this was with regards to the supplier and manufacturer survey moving from pilot phase, and how will the qualitative questions such as strategy be evaluated in the scoring system? Just so everyone's aware, the full scoring methodology will be published hopefully by the end of the month. So again, we will be transparent in our scoring methodology and our framework. So that will be coming online ideally by the end of the month, but certainly before the survey is launched before the 18th of April. And then the second question that we received is, when will we receive the confidential scorecard? As Maria mentioned, for 2022, your scorecard is already available on the platform. And for the new 2023 results, we have the ambition and aim to get these live in November. So those were the two questions that we received. And I think we have another one. So, hang on, sorry. Okay. Oh, great question. Interesting question. So the question is, how are you preventing duplicate reporting for the fiber volume uptake if brand retailer and supplier for the brand, for that same brand and retailer are both completing the survey? This is a great question, and we are still sort of, I guess, working through the details of this. And again, this will be live or sort of available for review as part of the scoring methodology at the end of the month. But that is a great question and something that, yeah, we continue to think about. Are there any other questions? If not, I just want to sort of reiterate, this year we really want to encourage people to use the hub. So from our team, Jessie and Chiara will be leading sort of the interactions on the hub, but we really do encourage you to use that. It's such a key tool for the organization, and we want to try and utilize that and really build up the community for 2023. So that's sort of just a call for action to really engage in the hub.
Any other questions? See, the group has gone quiet on us.
So we have a good question. As a brand, do I have to be part of the public facing index? And no. So we added that question added that option last year. If you're not comfortable to be on the material change index, you simply select that no option in the survey, and we do remove you from the index. So being on the public facing index is purely optional.
Any other questions?
So everyone's very quiet, but if there aren't any other questions, as Prina mentioned, the team are here to support you, so please do feel to reach out. And just to reiterate again, we do have a new name, which is the Materials Benchmark. So our email address has changed to benchmark@textileexchange.org. So again, a bit simpler, hopefully, and a bit more straightforward. But yeah, I think maybe we close and give everyone some time back. Yeah, or any final thoughts or questions from the team? And thank you, Maria and Prina.
Thank you, Haley, and thanks everyone for joining.
Thank you to our speakers, and thank you for participating in today's webinar. As a friendly reminder, the recording will be posted on the hub, and an email will be sent to all registered participants with a link to today's presentation. That concludes our webinar. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.